the world's most important event every year since 1920. 1920, Women's Suffrage. Date, August 26th. Location, Washington, D.C. Though the United States was founded under democratic principles, only a minority of its population, in the beginning only white landowning males over the age of 21, could actually vote. But after the 19th Amendment of the Constitution was passed, women finally gain a voice and the right to cast their ballots. Though the voting rights fight was far from over for many African American women, especially in the South. 1921, Chinese Communists rise. Date, July 1st. Location, Beijing. In a prequel to the rise of Mao Zedong and Red China, the Chinese Communist Party is founded, and 3 weeks later it convenes its first national congress that is attended by Mao. It would take another 28 years before the Republic of China becomes the People's Republic of China. 1922, British Empire shrinks. Date, February 28th. Location, London. The British Empire was at its peak toward the end of World War I, commanding a global population estimated to be as many as 570 million people, or about a fourth of the world's population at the time. The empire's size began to shrink in 1920, when Britain declared limited independence for Egypt, which leads to full independence 2 years later. 1923, Great Kanto earthquake. Date, September 1st. Location, Tokyo, Yokohama, Japan. The Great Kanto earthquake, also known as the Tokyo-Yokohama earthquake, strikes the Japanese mainland at noon on September 1st, 1923, with a magnitude of 7.9 on the Richter scale. The death toll is estimated at 140,000 people. The force of the temblor destroys hundreds of thousands of homes that either collapse or are engulfed in fire. The quake sets off a tsunami that reaches a height of almost 40 feet at Atami in the Sagami Gulf, killing 60 people there. The most significant outcome of the catastrophe is the rebuilt Tokyo would become a modern metropolis. 1924, From Lenin to Stalin. Date, January 21st. Location, Moscow. Following the death of Vladimir Lenin on January 21st, the new leader of the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin, immediately begins a purge of political rivals. Some are simply moved to different positions, while others, like Leon Trotsky, the presumed successor to Lenin, are exiled. Stalin's paranoia grows as he takes control of the nation, and, with it, the level of violence and killing of anyone perceived to be a threat to his power and control. 1925, Scopes Monkey Trial. Date, July 10th. Location, Dayton, Tennessee. After teaching the theory of evolution in a Tennessee high school, the state prosecutes science teacher John Thomas Scopes because state law prohibits such teaching as it runs counter to biblical beliefs. The trial pits well-known Christian fundamentalist and former presidential candidate William Jennings Bryan against renowned attorney Clarence Darrow. The jury rules against Scopes, forcing him to pay a fine of $100, about $1,498 in 2020 dollars. It would take another 43 years before the U.S. Supreme Court would rule that laws punishing people for teaching evolution violate the First Amendment. 1926, U.S. starts numbered highway system. Date, November 11th. Location, U.S. In a precursor to the modern interstate highway system, the federal government introduces a national highway numbering system in an effort to standardize roadways, especially local roads and trails with names unfamiliar to outsiders. The U.S. numbered highway system makes it easier for the growing number of car owners to figure out how to get from one city or town to the next and opens the way for the Great American Road Trip. 7. 1927, Lindbergh Nonstop to Paris. Date, May 21st. Location, New York to Paris. When the monoplane The Spirit of St. Louis touches down at Le Bourget Field in Paris on the evening of May 21st, Charles Lindbergh becomes the first person to fly over the Atlantic Ocean non-stop, making him one of the heroes of the age. His feat fires the imagination of aspiring aviators about the commercial possibilities of flight. Lindbergh would stay in the news, but for regrettable reasons. A strong advocate for American isolationism in the 1930s, he is criticized for his admiration of Nazi Germany's aircraft industry. Also, his infant son would be killed during a bungled kidnapping attempt in 1932. 8. 1928, Earhart crosses Atlantic. Date, June 17th to 18th. Location, Wales. Amelia Earhart becomes the first woman to pilot a plane across the Atlantic, from Newfoundland to Wales, making her an American national heroine and feminist icon who would go on to set numerous aviation records. She would later set another record as the first person, man or woman, to fly solo from Hawaii to the U.S. mainland. Earhart and her co-pilot Fred Noonan would vanish over the Pacific Ocean in 1937 during Earhart's attempt to circumnavigate the globe. Recent evidence has emerged indicating Earhart may have sent distress signals after surviving a crash, possibly on the remote Gardner Island in the western Pacific Ocean. 9. 1929, Wall Street crashes. Date, October 24th to 29th. Location, New York City. The Roaring Twenties come to a halt on Black Tuesday in October 1929, when stocks take a nosedive, contributing to the Great Depression. Reasons for the worst economic downturn in American history include overlending by weakly regulated banks, excessive stock price valuation, too many stocks purchased on margin, unrestrained exuberance that sends millions of people to convert their savings into stocks, tightening of the credit by the Federal Reserve, and an agricultural drought. 1930, Ho Chi Minh rises in Vietnam. Date, February 2nd. Location, Hanoi. In an event that would have repercussions for U.S. foreign policy decades later, Vietnamese independence fighter Ho Chi Minh founds the Communist Party of Vietnam as part of his effort to oust French colonial occupiers. Uncle Ho, as he was known to his many supporters, was inspired by the Russian Bolsheviks, who opposed the Tsarist autocracy, seeing parallels between that struggle and the fight against the foreign occupiers of his country.